Hey there, welcome to CNT Collectibles. I am C. Hope you're doing well. All right, this week we're going to take a look at catchers that might be worth our long-term investment dollars. In this series, we're just taking a look at players position by position, how they stack up historically against their peers, and see who might be on a Hall of Fame track. And so today we've got the backstops. Personally, these are the most skilled, the most talented, and probably the handsomest people on the field. So this former catcher has no bias, of course. So we'll take a look at some modern guys and see what we can see here. So overall, we have 19 catchers in the Hall of Fame. The average wins above replacement is 52. That's been skewed as of late when you have players like Johnny Bench and Ivan Rodriguez and Mike Piazza and Carlton Fisk and that group. Their average wins above replacement is in the 70s area, and so it lifts everybody up. And so if we can get to that 52, 55 area in the wins above replacement metric, then there's a shot, because historically that was the number, but recently you need to do a lot better than that. And so there are some exceptions. I think that number will start to skew lower in the near future, and we'll get into that in just a second here. But that's our marker for now. So the most hits, Ivan Rodriguez is 2,844. The most home runs belongs to Mike Piazza with 427. All right, coming up January, I think it is. They'll have the voting of the new class, and newly eligible Joe Mauer was one of the better names on that list. Beltre's probably in first try. Mauer might take him a try or two, but he should be off to a good start here. He's got an MVP, a couple top 5 MVPs, finishes 6 All-Star games, 3 Gold Gloves, 5 Silver Sluggers, and 3 batting titles, which hadn't been done in quite some time. I want to say 6 or 7 decades or something like that. Never in the American League. So first American League catcher to get that. And he did it to get the batting title award. He did that 3 times. And so this is one of the players that is going to sneak in. He's going to have that kind of that average WAR, that WAR wins above replacement at that 53 level, and you'll have Yachty at, was he 55, and Posey 56, 57, and so we're not going to have those generational type catchers. But what they did was Yachty was amazing on defense. He owned that position defensively for a decade, and Posey and Mauer batting titles and MVPs. And so if you're going to hit that mark, you're going to have to do something special as well. And so getting 55 wins above replacement, not going to get her done. Look at Russell Martin, look at Brian McCann. They hit that number, but they didn't stand out long enough, I think. Russell Martin, great defensively. Brian McCann, one of the better pitch framers in history, recognized that after the fact, and he was a terrific hitter as well. That may not be enough, and so the bar has been raised, but I think you can still sneak in with a lower wins above replacement if you do some other things really, really well. Joe Mauer, in terms of hits, wins above replacement, I think this is total hits here. So again, ranking in the top 8, everyone around him is in the Hall of Fame. So I think it's just a matter of time before he gets in. Buster Posey should be getting in. So again, I think that lowers the ball overall. So if you see, we'll start on the right side here. If we look at catchers as a cumulative, all of them through history, all 19 of them. Again, that 53 wins above replacement was kind of the average. So above the line, you're generational, and below the line, you can still be a Hall of Famer, and that's what makes an average. But if you look at the players inducted by the Baseball Writers Association since 1980, you're looking at closer to 70 wins above replacement. So that's generational type stuff, and I don't think that we've got the Pudge Rodriguez, the Piazzas, the Fisks, the benches of the world in this next crop here, but they did some things that were pretty special that should get them in here. Wins above replacement by year, this is our metric. So on an annual basis, what is the average Hall of Famer putting up in a year? So age 29 is kind of their peak year with 5 wins above replacement, and they're typically averaging between 4 and 5 wins above replacement. The way I use this is if a player is requiring more than 5 wins above replacement on a year annually to get to this line to stay on track, then I'll remove them from my list. They'll have to do something on an annual basis that most catchers don't average, at their peak, and so they'll have a nice peak here. Then you start to see some decline around age 33, and very few of them make it past 37, 38. So that's kind of our metric here. We'll see if we can get them to 48, 50 runs above replacement by around age 35 or so, and then maybe a couple more years of garbage time. So we'll start off the list with some guys that they're young. it may be just a little bit too early to put him on any sort of long-term track. Unfair to them, but worth keeping an eye on. That's led by Francisco Alvarez, who came up at age 21 and actually produced, had a decent season here, and so put up 2.7 wins above replacement. Most catchers aren't even starting by that point, and so he's exceeding the Hall of Fame average, but it's still early, so he doesn't get his own page just yet. 48 wins above replacement by age 35. He needs to average just over 3 per year. So he's off on the right foot here. He come up early, come up and produce, and he's doing both of those things. And so we'll see if he can't keep that up over time here, and then that could be a player of long-term relevance. But it's going to take years before we see what kind of track he's on here. Patrick Bailey, age 23, 2.8 wins above replacement. Hall of Fame average at this point in time, age 23, 6.5 wins above replacement. So he needs to average just under 4 going forward. So again, it's certainly possible. He's got terrific defensive skills, and so we'll see how that plays out here. Alejandro Kirk, he's been on this list the past couple years. He came up early, producing somewhat here. What he needs to do is average something that he hasn't really done consistently here. So that's why we're going to kind of keep an eye on him, but not do anything terribly significant with him at this time here. Logan O'Hoppe, injured this year, but again, age is on his side here. So let's see if he can produce. So this is mostly the benefit of age-based. Same with Keibert Ruiz. He's been up for a few years, hasn't done a whole lot with it because of his young age. He can remain on the track, but we need to see something out of him sooner rather than later. Ryan Jeffers, part-time player for the Twins. Terrific when he plays, but he's in a platoon with Christian Vasquez, which doesn't help things overall. And Tyler Stevenson came up, had a pretty decent year last year. Didn't do anything this year, so he remains well off the track, but he's under that 5 threshold, so he makes this list on a technicality here. So take a look at a few individual players here. You're a National League All-Star starter. Sean Murphy got his first All-Star game and a Gold Glove here, so he's got 14 wins above replacement. The Hall of Fame average at age 28 is closer to 27, so he needs to average just under 5 wins per season. Defensively, pretty good defender overall here. So obviously he's got the Gold Glove. So what I look for from a catcher is if you are good defensively, then you can stay there. They're not going to shift you to first base, where that bar is much higher than it would be at catcher. So you get to play more, but the wins above replacement, the average replacement player, does put up a higher higher WAR at that position. So the bar's a bit higher here. Catcher, you can bring in some defensive guy to play, and maybe they don't have a high WAR, so the bar is much lower. So if he could stay at that catcher position and do what he did last year for a few more years, he can continue to accelerate and close the gap on this line. Again, this is a lower bar, but you can, as long as you're tracking it, you can come in just under it and still be considered Hall of Fame type. But you will have to have some pretty decent awards, as we have seen with, or we will see, I think, with Posey, Mauer, and Molina. If you're going to hit this low bar, or track it, or stay, roughly, you better do something somewhat generational. So worth monitoring. But again, long shot, as is long shot for everybody. The Hall of Fame. I mean, it's not Hall of Very, well, it is the Hall of Very Good, unfortunately, these days. But remains to, again, we'll see how this pans out. So we'll monitor on an annual basis here. Will Smith, 28 years old, 15 wins above replacement, Hall of Fame average, same thing, 27, same as Murphy there. He's got an All-Star game. Backed up Mr. Murphy this year, 48 by 35. He needs to average just under 5, so about 4.5 wins. So it's a little bit better track than Sean Murphy. Defensive WAR, good defender. His bat's going to keep him in the lineup there, so he'll have the ability to take advantage of the catcher position. And again, he's tracking. Came up with a late start. Most guys do these days. So as long as he continues to track and maybe closes that gap over time, then we've got something on our hands here. So again, one to monitor here. Cal Raleigh, kind of surprised by this one here. I think if you're in the Seattle area, you're not surprised, but I don't watch a lot of Mariners games. And so this is why I do this. Can we see something that maybe I wouldn't really consider otherwise here? So age 26, 9 wins above replacement, Hall of Fame average 18, 48 by 35. Can you get to that 50, roughly that 50 win level by age 35? And he's averaged just over 4, so 4.38 wins on an annual basis here. Defensively, terrific defender overall here, so he should get some recognition for that in the near future. But he doesn't look like the speediest guy. He's terrific behind the plate defensively, so he should stay at that catcher position. And the last couple of years, he's really put up plus 4 win seasons, and so he's doing what you're supposed to do at the peak. He came in at a later time, but if he continued to do this for the next few years, as most catchers are averaging kind of 3 or 4, and if he's able to get above that 4 and peak around 5, he could really close that gap. And so this is an interesting speculative name here. one of the better tracks of the catchers. And again, it comes down to price. So as long as he's cheap, then it makes some sense. JT Realmuto, he's tracking very, very well here. We've got the little 2020 year that was a little bit short in season that added a little stutter. Otherwise, his growth towards the line would have been a bit closer here. So defensively, one of the better catchers. A couple of Gold Gloves, 3 All-Star games, and 3 Silver Sluggers, and so he's doing what you need to do in the award department. So we'd like to see more Gold Gloves, but Yachty was blocking for so long. So we'll see if voters at some point say, you know what, he probably should have gotten more, but we had this generational defender kind of in his way. So it'll kind of come down to the voters on that one. So again, defensively, now this year was a pretty bad defensive year for him. I think he was in negative defensive WAR for the first time, might be ever, or at least a really long time. So in terms of wins above replacement, he is off the track because he's a little bit older, came up a bit later, but he does continue to produce and accelerate towards it. And again, maybe the voters say, hey, someone's got to get in. This is a player that was considered the best at the position, at least offensively, for a few years. There could be a case made. I think there are plenty of names ahead of him. But it's still one to monitor because not many people are this productive at this age here. So even though technically off the track, you got to use the shoulder tap computer once in a while and say, he's going to get some consideration and probably worth monitoring here. So a couple more years, maybe he closes that gap if he's willing to play into his late 30s and be productive. But again, he'll have to continue to compile some things here. So we'll see how that goes here. And our number one target is Adley Rutschman, which is probably not a surprise to most people here. 25 years old, 10 wins above replacement, just off the Hall of Fame track, but close enough. I mean, again, that's an average. So some Hall of Famers he's doing better than. So some not as well. But that composite player, pretty close to the line there. So can he average under 4 wins above replacement? Well, he's been doing 5 for the last couple of years. So he's peaking. If he can maintain that peak for a few more years, then he can get that line. Maybe if he exceeds it, then he can be more of a generational type talent here. So adequate enough defensively. He has an all-star game. So I don't think there's a whole lot of question here that this is your number one target overall here. So I should probably update the picture. So you look at it, it's like orange. It's Baltimore, right? But you still got the Oregon State gear on here. So next year we'll have a new picture for him. I just like this one. So anyways, tracking the line looks good. That's your higher level target. It's probably going to cost you more than the other guys as well because of that. But that's how it goes. So all right, that's what I got for you. We'll hit you with the first baseman next week. Have a great weekend. Bye now.